Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Paragon and the Rise of the Jungle Warrior. As always, I'm D, and today we're going to be looking into this guide for Khaimera. Khaimera is a very powerful jungler here in Paragon. I'd put him probably in the top tier of jungles. You'd have to, if you want a more in-depth analysis on that, you can look him up. But I'm going to talk about why I like him and why I think he's a great jungler here, and I'll also walk you through how I play Khaimera. Now, just with everybody else, Khaimera's left click is his basic attack. Just hack. You see those axes, he hits you with them. That's his basic attack. However, his basic attack eventually becomes very important. Before that, though, we're going to go on to his abilities. His right click, ambush. This is a targeted ability on an enemy hero. He jumps onto them, does some ability damage, and gives a pretty good slow for a bit. Doesn't say exactly how long. And he's granted 3 stacks of spirit regeneration when you hit with ambush. We'll talk about what spirit regeneration is in just a second. Next up is Khaimera's Q, unleash. Upon activation, hack, so your basic attack, has its attack speed maxed out for 5 attacks within 3 seconds. This doesn't sound like it's going to be easy, but it's actually very easy. Khaimera has the ability to hit insanely fast once you have Unleash going. Now, when you have Unleash active, your attacks will do less damage. The minimum they'll do is 55% at level 1. I think at level 4, you're doing about 70-75% of your base damage. So you can actually hit very hard as Khaimera, just very quickly. I'm going to skip over his E real quick and talk about his ultimate, Cull. After a brief channel, Khaimera stuns and deals some pretty heavy damage to a targeted enemy hero. Nearby enemies are displaced, it's a knockback, and receive a 60% max move speed for 3 seconds, and it gives them 6 stacks of spirit regeneration. The knockback is pretty good, and it's great for helping you get in and attack the squishy carries or the supports in the back lines. Now, the reason I skipped over his E is because it is spirit regeneration, which both ambush and Cull give you stacks of. It's a passive, but it's a very powerful skill on its own. Like I said, Khaimera's health regen is boosted at level 1 plus 0.9 for 2 seconds each time he lands a hack, that's your basic attack, ambush, that's your right click, or Cull, which is your ultimate, on an enemy. This affects stacks and increases in effectiveness each time the ability is leveled up. This will actually stack up to 35 times, so Khaimera has some insane health regeneration, which is good because ultimately he is very squishy, and he's actually got one big problem as a character, namely that ambush and Cull are only usable if you can target a hero. They will not work on creeps. Khaimera is a big initiator. His whole thing is jump in on an enemy target with ambush, hit them with Cull, activate Unleash, and just start smacking them. The problem with this is Khaimera, once you're initiated, he doesn't really have a way out of a fight. He's very dependent on his spirit regeneration. That is why when we get into the game, you'll see that I max spirit regeneration first. It is the first skill to really go after because of how integral it is to survival as Khaimera. Before we get onto that, though, next up we're going to take a look at the deck that I play with Khaimera. Alright folks, here we are in the deck screen with my jungle deck. That's literally all it's called because I didn't want to bother with a fancy name. Now, the 2 affinities I chose for this are Growth and Chaos. Growth, because it will give you good sustain and defensive abilities that Khaimera sorely lacks on his own. Chaos, because Khaimera is all about attacking. There's basically no defense. Khaimera's ultimate goal is get in and hit things. That's why Chaos is the big affinity, but there's also, of course, the Growth affinity. Let's go over the gems before we go over the cards. So the first gem, because the big stats for this deck are Agility and Vitality. Both have a level 1 gem, so you get an effect the second you put a point into either of those stats. For Agility, you have Auto Health Potion. Gives you some health regen for 15 seconds when you fall below half your maximum health. And this can happen once a minute. This is a slot 1 gem, like I said. The slot 1 gem for Vitality is Jungle Lifesteal. Basic attacks restore 3.07 health against jungle minions. This will stack very well with your spirit regeneration, so as long as you're attacking jungle minions, Khaimera is effectively unkillable. He can be killed by certain creeps, though, so do be careful. Next up, slot 19. This is the fourth gem slot in the rotation for agility. Duelist. Take 20% less damage from any hero you hit with a basic attack for the next 3 seconds. Again, because Khaimera is primarily an initiator, you're supposed to get in, hit people, and this will help keep you alive. It also gives you a little bit of health regen once you activate it. The slot 19 gem for Vitality gives you a little bit of power. That's and it's the Ferocity gem. Gain up to 40 attack speed based on your missing health. So the lower your health gets, the faster you attack. This can actually lead to you hitting insanely quickly even without activating Unleash. And then we have 25 slot gems. Critical hits. A little bit of power, a little bit of health regen, but you have an almost 10% chance, you have nearly a 1 in 10 chance of hitting for 46% extra damage on your basic attacks. Again, outside of Ambush and Cull, Khaimera only has his basic attack to do damage. So this is why you have critical hits. It gives you a good chance to deal some extra damage. Next up, improved health regen. This is a big deal. 60 health and 6 basic armor is not that big, but healing for 0.25% doesn't sound like a lot, but when it's your max health per second, and it can stack up to 6 times, so you have a total of 6, it will actually grow 5 times. But you will always have that 0.25% max health per second regen. This is again something to help keep Khaimera in the fight, keep him alive. Now the stacks will not build while in combat, but the basic regen will be there. Alright, next up we're going to take a look at the cards. This is actually one of my larger decks because it's maxed out at 12 cards. First off, we have Demolitionist. This is a level 1 agility skill, or agility card. It doesn't seem like it should be in this deck because it gives you 12 bonus damage to non-hero units and structures. Bonus damage is reduced to 8 if attack is ranged. You're not a ranged hero with Khaimera, so that doesn't matter. But this does take into account when you're in the jungle, so if you have a Demolitionist, you're actually going to be hitting the jungle creeps harder than most people would expect. You can get through camps a lot quicker. Next up, we have Exoskeleton. I talked about this with the Sevarog guide. Hero block, like it's just take 6. Each takes 6 less damage from enemy heroes. It's not much, but in the early game, especially if you end up counter jungling, you'll need this because it will help you stay alive. Next up is the first combination card, the Mother Tree. Gives you a little bit of health regen and a little bit of mana, but it gives you 50% mana regen and it doubles its health regen amount when you're in the jungle. How do you know when you're in the jungle? I'll show you when we get into the game. But this will actually keep you alive a lot longer in the jungle. Finally, next up, a level 3 Vitality card, Green Spring. 20 basic armor is good, but 8.4 health regen while out of combat. If you're just sitting between jungle camps and you have Green Spring, this will actually get you back in the fight a lot quicker. Next up, level 3 Agility card, Nitro Boost. 8 power, and it gives you you can sprint for 125 extra move speed for 3 seconds. You can do this once every 12 seconds, and it costs no mana. That's why Nitro Boost is in this. The whole 8 power is not great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. But you can use this to help you flee, because this is one of the few ways I've built into this deck and this build to help you get away from combat as Khaimera. But it can also help you get onto somebody. If, for example, you know roughly where the enemy carry is and you know they're very weak, pop your sprint and get ready to ambush them. Similar to that, we have Sand Speeder. Gives you attack speed instead of power, and you don't have to. This is a permanent passive, fleet-footed. Increase move speed by 8%. If you attack or are attacked, your move speed is reduced by 4% for 15 seconds. So you lose a little bit of speed when you get into combat, but this will help you get into the combat faster, and the attack speed will always be there as long as you have Sand Speeder equipped. Next up, Growth Totem. Again, I talked about this with Sevarog. Power and max health every minute is good for somebody like Khaimera, because ultimately Khaimera is actually kind of squishy. He's just very good about having his regeneration. And if you combine this with improved health regeneration gem, you'll be healing a lot. Next up is one of the biggest and most important cards in the deck, despite it only being a 3 and 3. 3 agility, 3 vitality, Tyrant. 10 power on its own. After you kill 35 minions in the jungle, and this is not just any minions, this actually has to be a jungle camp minion, you'll gain 200 max health. You also have jungle power, which you gain 0.75 power for every jungle minion killed, also stacks 35 times. So once you've got maxed out jungle power, you'll get the 200 max health. This is a very important card to get early. Of course, just with all cards, you'll lose it if you unequip it, but it is a very important card to have early. Next up, Vital Waters. This is just an upgraded version of Green Spring. Gives you health and health regen, but it also increases all healing effects cast and received by 15%. This is just something to help you get your health back quicker. That's all this is. Now we're getting into the attacking cards. For 8 agility, you can have Heavy Hitter, 16 power and attack speed each, and it gives you 15% extra basic damage. Heavy Hitter is a great card to get on Khaimera in the mid to late game, or even if you can get it in the early game, go for it, because again, he is all about his basic attacks. Jump on somebody with ambush with Heavy Hitter on, you're gonna have them bleeding out pretty quickly. Next up, Trapper for 8 agility and 4 vitality. 15 power, 32 attack speed. 32 attack speed, I will say now, is the highest attack speed I've seen on any single card in this game at level 1. It also gives you slowing strikes. Basic attacks reduce enemy move speed by 10 for 5 seconds, stacking up to 10 times. When you hit that 10th stack, the target will be rooted for 1 second. Trapper is great if you see the enemy getting away from you a lot. If they have a easy time escaping from your attacks, pick up Trapper. Even if you don't get the 10 hits, which with Khaimera you really should because of his attack speed, but even the slow will help with that. And then finally the big card in the deck, Shatter Golem. 26 power, 18 attack speed, a critical strike. Basic attacks have a 20% chance, that's a 1 in 5, to deal 100% bonus damage. So basically if you activate Unleash and hit one target with Shatter Golem, and you have Shatter Golem equipped with all 5 attacks, you should, in theory, hit them for double damage on at least one of those attacks. Alright folks, I'm going to get into a game, but I'm going to do this one a little bit differently, because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do commentary I'm going to do post commentary. I'm not going to do in-match commentary because that just makes everything a lot more difficult. It's actually a lot more difficult to play a game like this, or any game really, while commentating. So like I said, the commentary for this match will be done in post. It'll still be all the same commentary, but you'll see different thing. It's just going to be a little bit different in this way. I'll see you guys on the other side. Okay, just as a heads up folks, I am going to be doing this live casting just because I've had a couple of issues doing this one otherwise. Now, you saw there I picked up my first point in agility, and I'm heading into the right side jungle. You also want to pick up spirit regeneration as your first skill. Now there are 5 camps in this area, and this is the main part of where you're going to be spending your time in the jungle. The one directly ahead of me is actually the big camp. It's also a buff camp. I'm not going to be dealing with that just yet because if you want, I can show you. That timer tells you how long until that camp spawns. What instead I'm going to be dealing with first are these. There are 4 of these small camps, and they always spawn in the same style. They'll spawn with a larger than normal minion at the 1 minute mark, and then that timer will start again. A regular small minion will spawn over here, and then after the timer runs out a third time, over there. If you kill the camp during this time, before the timer runs out, all it does is reset the spawn order. So I kill this big guy, and a big guy will respawn in 73 seconds. You want to start here because if you can clear 3 of these camps without any issue, you'll be set for a good chunk of money to get your second point, and also this will put you at level 2. Unfortunately, sticking with spirit regeneration like I did means that I'm better on sustain, but not so much on quick killing. By the way, anytime that there's nothing really going on or nothing important to say, I will be cutting parts of the video. But right now, I'm going to pick up Unleash for my second point, or my second skill. Because what Unleash does is give me those 5 attacks really fast, like I pointed out in the overview of Khaimera's skills. Here it is. And there that is. Next up, I'm going to go ahead and put a point into Vitality so that I have my Jungle Lifesteal Gem. In that time, the big camp is spawned. It has these 2 regular little minions. They aren't really special. What is special is that big green guy, and I'll get onto him once I've killed these guys, because what this guy does, he gives you a special buff when you kill him. That buff can also be, you can also get it from the other side. There's 2 green camps and 2 river camps for buffs. The green jungle buff camp, the one I'm killing right now, will always give you the green jungle buff, like I just said. What it does, as you can see there, shield that reflects damage while active and explodes when removed. I'm heading over to the left lane right now because you do want to be situationally aware when you're playing as a jungler, just like in regular MOBAs. I say regular MOBAs, I mean more your average MOBA. Now, my team did just lose our tank, but but anyway, I was talking about buffs. Beyond the green buff, there's also the river buff. I'll put a point into ambush here so that I've got my key initiation skill. Now if you look on the map, there you saw there was the shield exploding, and that's an enemy attacking me. This is the river buff. I'm actually gonna go ahead and pick it up here because this is a good one for me. The purple one puts you in the shadow plane, which makes you invisible. Now their Decker and Grim.exe are still hunting for me, which is a great time for me to head back into my own jungle. I'm also gonna put my second point into agility here. Now I could have made it. There's a good case to have been made for staying in the mid lane there and helping out my mid laner. But Howitzer, he's not a big worry of dying. He's not in really danger of dying. But the river buffs, there's a short list. I think there's about 4 of them, where you get the buff when you kill that one minion. And there's, like I said, I think there's about 4 of them. The blue one will give you extra speed. The purple one you saw there makes you temporarily invisible. There's a red one that gives you extra ability damage. And a kind of tan one that gives you a damage over time effect on your attacks. What you saw there was me hitting the gold camp, which gives you no buff, but it just gives you a good chunk of money. Now there's a couple of small camps up here that you can also hit up. But this you usually want to hit if you're on a ganking path. There you saw, since I hadn't killed the camp entirely, the little guy respawned. Now, one of the neat things about this is that the gold camp, much like this camp here, even though they're not technically in the jungle because they're outside the fog wall, which is that right there, that purple thing off in the distance right there. Even though they're outside the fog walls that usually constrain the jungle, for one of the cards I'm going to go for, they still count as jungle camps. And now that I've hit level 5, I've actually got access to Khaimera's big initiation combo. I might actually be able to pull this off even. No, Crunch is playing too defensively. I think he might have a ward here. That is one thing I will admit I need to do better at as being a jungler, is that I'm not very good at warding. Never have been. But you might want to change up the deck that I showed you guys, add in a ward. Although, actually, I'm not sure I can't think of any wards that are in the Growth Chaos duology. I'm actually going to head over to the left lane. Howitzer is in some serious trouble, but the AI is not stupid enough to stay around. Right? Now, this is a special camp as well. This doesn't offer a buff. What these raptors do is a ton of damage. They are a very dangerous fight, and I would not commit to it if you don't have to. Or if you're low level. Like level 5, I'm nowhere near strong enough to fight those. Take Rampage's gold camp from him. Now, Grim.exe and Decker are both ranged attackers. Decker is mostly is here to support. Grim is a carry. Now, I'm not using Unleash as much as I could be, chiefly just because I'm just not. All right, what I'm gonna do next? I'm actually skipping one of the key cards to this build because I just decided not to go for Mother Tree this game. Normally, once you get to 3 points, you want to head back, you want to pick up the Mother Tree. Or not 3 points, but once you get to where you have 1 in each, or 2 in agility, whichever one you went for first, you want 2 in, and you want a 3rd point in the other stat. So you see I've got 4 in agility and 3 in vitality. That gives me 3 and 3. What I'm going to go back and do is I'm going to pick up Tyrant here. Because Tyrant, early on, is a very good card for a jungler. Because once you get 35 kills, and with Khaimera that's actually really easy, you can actually just... Although, actually, this is actually a great chance to show off the combo I was talking about. Now, I actually delayed it a little bit there. Now, Rampage actually has an advantage here, because he could activate his ultimate. Or he could have if he was still in the jungle, but he decided to leave it. But yes, normally, if you really want to go for the quick initiation with Khaimera, what you do is you jump in with ambush, you right-click, and instantly hit them again with your ultimate. It can do a ton of damage if you build him right, and with this build, in the later stages of the game, you will be. Now, one of my complaints about Tyrant, the card I'm using right now, is you can actually see its buff right there. It's the one with the arrow kind of pointing up, and a number next to it. Right now it's only in single digits because I haven't killed that many. But once you get into double digits, it's hard to know how many stacks you actually have on Tyrants, because the font they chose was not the best one for it. And as you can see, I'm actually keeping a pretty good balance between my agility and my vitality, because Khaimera can actually thrive pretty well with that, as opposed to going solidly into one. I am eventually going to start moving into just using one stat, but for now, having a balance is not a bad thing. There's the damage over time buff. Like I said, it's kind of a tan color. It's hard to tell. Hard to call it something else. That right there is the initiation combo I was talking about a minute ago. I did actually get her. Yeah, I did. Gonna go ahead and max out Spirit Regeneration. Also gonna go ahead and pick up Exoskeleton, and I'm gonna ditch Demolitionist, that first card I picked up, for Growth Totem. Now I've got nothing but growth cards right now. That's not a bad thing. But this is the signal to me that I'm gonna start switching in and just going straight agility. Because Growth Totem I'm going to hold on to for pretty much the rest of the game, since it just makes me tankier and tankier as time goes on. I will eventually be trying out Exoskeleton and Tyrant for other cards, specifically the likes of Shatter Golem and Heavy Hitter. I can actually afford to have both of those on at once. Now, this is a great chance for me to do another thing Khaimera is really good at, which is jump on back lines. Unfortunately, I did just get stunned, and I'm probably not going to make it out of this. Luckily, my support came in, and Muriel is a great shielder. There's Rampage activating his ultimate, which means I need to get out of here. Go ahead and pick up second level of Cull at level 9. You really want to max out Spirit Regeneration and kind of alternate between your other skills. So at level 10, I will pick up another point in Unleash. And this is actually going back. This right here, the situation I'm running into, is actually what I was talking about earlier with you really need to be situationally aware as Khaimera. because you gotta know when you need to join your team for a push, and also when to run. Okay, they are actually fighting around the camp I haven't really talked about yet, which is the Prime Helix. You don't want to fight that as Khaimera at low level. In fact, you really don't want to fight it solo to begin with. That was just too much of a dive. Alright, the weird thing I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to ditch Tyrant in favor of getting up my heavy hitter. Actually, no. I'm going to take Trapper instead, because one of Khaimera's biggest weaknesses, I think I mentioned this in the original video, in the deck overview, is that Khaimera has issues with gap closing. Or he has issues with keeping up with people, and you actually kind of saw it there with Rampage. Because I couldn't keep up with him. He actually managed to get away from me. That's what Trapper is all about. It slows down enemies when you hit them, and if you can get 10 stacks of it, which with Khaimera is actually incredibly easy, then you can actually get them completely stuck. Also, yeah, Decker, she's all about field tricks. You'll see what I mean when we get to the video on her. Right, there we go, level 10, pick up my second point in Unleash. That right there is where you see the strength of Khaimera. I fought him with a lot lower health than he had, and I was even a level lower than him, but I still came out of it the winner. Why? Because of Spirit Regeneration. That's why you max it first. Although, to be fair, I'm actually really weak. I'm going to head home. Go ahead and unequip Exoskeleton here. I'm temporarily going to pick up Sand Speeder, because I need speed to get out of here since they destroyed a secondary tower, or they destroyed a tier 2. So now the launchers are no longer working. And if I'm fast enough, I can probably get over here to Grim.exe and kill him. Yep. Also, Khaimera, as you might have noticed, doesn't really have to pay attention to all the laws of physics, because they jump in midair. Decker is going to have to run because there's no way she's going to be able to stand up to this kind of push. Also, if you want to know how to tell if an enemy is in range, when you mouse over them, they'll have an orange outline. It's hard to see sometimes, but now, unfortunately, I'm low on mana, so I cannot use Cull. But luckily, Rampage is being stupid and just standing here fighting me. One thing about Khaimera is don't be afraid to engage, even if you're not sure, because with Spirit Regeneration, Cull, Ambush, you are surprisingly hard to kill. You're not durable, but you're hard to kill because of how quickly you'll recover. Also, if you need stealth sometimes, you can actually just dip in and out of the fog walls. Because I know where Decker is right now. Also, that there's not a tower here. Yeah, I should not have stuck around that long. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and ditch that in favor of getting Heavy Hitter. Now, eventually I will be ditching Heavy Hitter for Shatter Golem. But this is a good mid to late transitional build, where you have Growth Totem, Trapper, and Heavy Hitter. Your final goal is to have Growth Totem, Trapper, and Shatter Golem with this build, because that way you've got some extra health, and you've also got the ability to just hit people harder. When you can, you also want to make sure you can push. Khaimera actually eventually becomes a very good split pusher because of how quickly you can hit. With a maxed out Unleash, you're not doing full damage, of course, but you're doing good damage, and you're doing it very quickly. In fact, I'm going to ignore that Rampage, and I'm going to head over here. Now, normally I would have taken the final point of Ambush, but I'm actually going to take the final point of Unleash here. because that gives me the option of hitting for 77.5% damage, I'm sorry, at maximum speed for 3 seconds 5 times. And as you can see, if you can get the drop on somebody, you can actually just basically erase them from the game for a few seconds, or within a few seconds. Now, Gadget and Decker are pushing in the mid lane, but it's around this time, with this amount of the build finished, that you really want to start. You really want to start transitioning into a split pusher. Now you can see Rampage has come in to try and contest me. He's going to throw his rock, he's going to miss, because I saw it coming. And then I'm just going to go ham on him. Now you might be thinking, what's that thing he does where he turns big? That's actually Rampage's ultimate. But he's actually not using it to its full potential. It upgrades 2 of his abilities, but it also gives him insane health regen as long as he's in the jungle. And of course he wasn't in the jungle. Now I don't have the mana for my full combo, but I can still probably lay a sizable hurt on somebody like Grim, because he is a squishy carry. Unfortunately, he's also able to lay a sizable hurt on me because he is, again, a carry. A lot of that came down to some luck on my part, but... And there I have I've finished off my agility, so I'm just transitioning into just putting the rest of my points into my vitality. Now again, I'm going back. I'm ditching Heavy Hitter and picking up Shatter Golem. Shatter Golem is the heaviest hitting card in this deck. Gives you a good chance of hitting criticals. Mine is a little bit higher because I have it leveled to 3. And you actually get card level bonuses when you're playing against AI. But yeah, this is actually what a Khaimera at full build can do. I'm still above half health, and I just dove in on 3 of them. Including their mid lane, their tank, and their support. That is what this build is geared to do. It's just get in, initiate, and just kill people. Now, I'm actually going to ignore Rampage here and just go straight onto the tower. Because I hit hard enough that the tower is going down. Now my team is transitioning onto the right tower. I'm going to join them. Because this is the part where I need to be joining my team. Actually, because of how weakened it is, I'm going to go straight onto the mid tower. That's pretty much it, folks. So like I said, you really want to max out Spirit Regen first, because that will keep you alive. Take Unleash second. And then just from there, alternate. And you see me actually getting to the point where I have Ferocity. Especially against tanks like your average tank build, because tanks have a... I'm pretty sure they're actually using the card. Yeah, they are. They're using the Numbing Rogue, which is actually kind of the bane of Khaimera. So you want to be careful with tanks. If you see one of them with that purple aura on the ground, that usually means they picked up Numbing Rogue, and Numbing Rogue is a decent sized attack speed slow. Also, one thing you should know is that you do not gain Spirit Regeneration for smacking buildings. You only gain it for killing hitting minions and heroes. But that's this one done, folks. Hope you all enjoyed. Join me next week for another episode of War of the Exemplars. And the week after that, I think we're gonna hit up the mid lane with the Gravity Master Gideon. As for that, folks, I have been D. This has been my guide to Khaimera, the Jungle Warrior. Good night, and good gaming.